Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, it might be a little harder to find salt for your driveway after back-to-back winter storms. And the Justice Department releases millions of additional files related to Jeffrey Epstein.
And we're tracking more chances of snow throughout the evening.
Dedicated to southern and eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. Snow has been falling in many areas for much of the day, and some far southeastern Kentucky counties are now under a winter storm warning. Meteorologist Megan Duswell has the latest on this First Alert Weather Day.
That's exactly right, Steve. We're watching that winter storm warning for many of those folks on the Kentucky and Virginia border, and you can really notice that heavier snow is focused in on those counties, and that's where it's tending to stay over the course of not only this evening, but overnight and into your Saturday morning. We're going to start to see that snow clearing itself out as we head into Saturday afternoon with some flurry chances all throughout the region for your Saturday, and looking a lot clearer, thankfully, as we're heading into your Sunday. In terms of those temperatures, though, right now we're looking at a mixture of the 20s. Definitely has been a very cold day, and the wind is starting to pick up, so the feels like temperatures out there are also on the rougher side. Speaking of temperatures overnight, though, we will drop down to the upper single digits and low teens. And with those feels like temperatures, once again, it's going to be brutally cold as you're heading out the door. Steve.
All right, Megan, thank you. Hardware stores throughout Kentucky are struggling to keep salt and ice melt in stock. Last weekend's winter storm created very high demand for the winter essentials, and customers are scrambling to get their hands on them. Great Lakes Ace Hardware in Jessamine County is one place that's sold out of salt.
It's been absolutely insane with how much stuff we've been selling, because it ain't just been the salt either. We've had the shovels that we've had to sell. With all the ice that's come through, we've had to sell the picks as well. Anything metal, like metal shovels, flathead shovels, stuff like that.
Tomlin says it could be a week or two before they get more salt in. Folks in Wayne, West Virginia have gone without clean water now for 2 weeks. That's after a vandalism incident at an AEP substation caused oil to spill into the waterways. But there is some good news today. The West Virginia Department of Health found no detection of oil in the water distribution system. More test results are expected soon, and that will determine if the do not consume order could be modified or lifted. A deputy in western Tennessee was shot and killed in the line of duty this morning. Deputy Derek Bonham was responding to a report of possible shots fired at a Days Inn in the community of Martin. Around 3 a.m., as deputies were heading to the scene, they saw a vehicle leaving a gas station near the motel. The driver fired shots, hitting Bonham. He was taken to a local hospital where he died. Martin police officers took a suspect into custody. No other details have been released yet. Officials with Louisville Metro Police hosted a retirement celebration for Officer Nick Wilt today. The Metro Police officer was shot in the head during the deadly mass shooting inside the Old National Bank back in 2023. 5 other people were killed in that shooting. After making an incredible recovery, LMPD says Wilt is taking a medical retirement from the department. The Justice Department has opened a federal civil rights probe into the death of Alex Preddy. Preddy was killed by Border Patrol officers in Minneapolis. The FBI will now lead the investigation, according to Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. It follows a social media post from President Trump calling Preddy a, quote, agitator and perhaps insurrectionist. Journalist and former CNN anchor Don Lemon was taken into custody in Los Angeles, California last night. The arrest stems from an anti-immigration and customs enforcement protest at a church in Minneapolis earlier this month. Lemon was covering the incident, which showed protesters rushing into the church, interrupting a service. Lemon's attorney says he was acting as a journalist, not a protester. He called the arrest an unprecedented attack on the First Amendment, saying Lemon was doing constitutionally protected work. But Justice Department officials say Lemon had no right to be on private church property, and he's charged with federal civil rights crimes. A bipartisan spending deal to avert a partial government shutdown at midnight is on thin ice, with a standoff over Homeland Security funding holding things up. Senate Democrats reached an agreement with President Trump Thursday to separate DHS funding from the rest of the spending measures and fund the agency for 2 weeks. They threatened to vote against the package after federal immigration agents killed 2 Minneapolis residents recently. The compromise hit a snag when Republican Lindsey Graham refused to move ahead with the vote.
The clock is ticking, the nation is waiting, and the abuses of ICE must come to an end.
Hold the people accountable in ICE who may have broken the law, but stand up for those in the field trying to protect America.
The 2-week extension for the Department of Homeland Security was put into work on new rules for federal agents involved in ICE operations. Now, even if the measure does clear the Senate before midnight, the House will still need to vote on it. Luigi Mangione will not face the death penalty if convicted of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. A judge is throwing out the federal murder charge against him. It only applies to killings that happened during another violent crime. Prosecutors argue stalking meets that requirement, but the judge disagrees. The 2 remaining federal charges against Mangione are for alleged stalking. They carry a maximum sentence of life in prison without parole. Mangione is still charged with murder at the state level, but New York does not have the death penalty. The Justice Department is releasing millions more pages from the so-called Epstein files. The document dump comes weeks after the DOJ missed a congressionally mandated deadline to get this done. WYMT Washington correspondent Stephen Goen has more on what officials are saying about the delay.
The latest release from the DOJ is the biggest disclosure of documents they've ever made related to Jeffrey Epstein. But now officials say they're done. On Friday, the Justice Department releasing more than 3 million additional files related to now-deceased convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The disclosure includes more than 2,000 videos and 180,000 images. The release comes after weeks of criticism. The department missed a congressionally mandated deadline in mid-December. But Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said Friday the DOJ has now fully complied, even though more than 6 million files were initially flagged. Blanche said the DOJ overcollected evidence and was now withholding information that could jeopardize ongoing investigations or victim details. Blanche also pushed back on claims the DOJ shielded President Trump and their work.
This mantra out there that, the Department of Justice is supposed to protect Donald J. Trump, and that's what we were telling. That's not true. That was never the case. We are always concerned about the victims.
And the deputy AG also defending how long this process took, saying that extensive redactions had to be made to protect the victims. In Washington, I'm Stephen Goen.
President Trump says he is nominating Kevin Warsh to replace Jerome Powell as Federal Reserve Chair. Powell's term ends in May. Warsh is a former inflation hawk who now favors lower interest rates, according to a number of public statements he's made in recent months. He's also called for overhauling the central bank's workforce. The Senate Banking Committee will consider Warsh's nomination through a public hearing. After that, the Senate chamber will vote on whether or not to confirm him. Singer Kid Rock was on Capitol Hill today. He wanted to shed light on what he says is Ticketmaster turning a blind eye to bad actors that artificially increase the price of tickets. Lawmakers accuse Ticketmaster of allowing scalpers and bots to scoop up tickets to sell them on the secondary market. Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn has introduced legislation aiming to make event tickets cheaper. Ticketmaster says they have a policy in place preventing bot purchases of tickets. Legendary actress Katherine O'Hara has died. The Emmy-winning actress was known for her roles in Home Alone, Beetlejuice, and Schitt's Creek. Her agency announced she died today at her Los Angeles home after a brief illness. O'Hara was a Canadian-born actor who gained fame through Toronto's Second City Theatre. She was also one of the creators of the sketch comedy show SCTV. Her career spanned decades, and she was celebrated for her comedic brilliance. Katherine O'Hara was 71. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, we'll test out a product that's supposed to help keep your food warm.
And we're talking first alert weather days that will continue into your Sunday.